Hi, today I want to discuss about collectivization in Kazakhstan. This topic is related to the one of the darkest policies during Soviet Union, which started in 1929 and finished in 1932. So it is related, especially to Kazakhstan, because like collectivization by itself started in all over the Soviet Union and all the 16 republics. So today I'm going to discuss especially like collectivization policy in Kazakhstan. So collectivization by itself is the process of unification of individual farms into large collective farms designed to produce marketable agricultural products. In other words, it's like collectivization was needed for Moscow to collect all the resources like domestic animals, then agricultural products in order to transfer to Moscow and to raise money from that. And another reason of collectivization was the exclusion of labor, because at that time, when USSR just started its massive like production of agricultural grains, agriculture products, and there was no central government, and so collectivization was helped USSR, especially like Stalinist regime, to unify in every republic agricultural sector, like agricultural producement production, and helping like increase the economy of USSR, especially in Moscow, because like at that time, Moscow had really serious problems economically. So collectivization is in Kazakhstan was one of the darkest goals and darkest policy that was happening in 1930, in 19 like 30s, as it was the how the Stalin itself described collectivization, the year of the great turning point. And collectivization had like five goals. So first is the implementation of the socialist transformation, because as like socialist regime means that everyone should have the same value of goods, and everyone should be the same equally same treated, and therefore like rich people were had to give their wealth to the government in order to uh, accurately divide the good to the nation. But honestly, like every product, like agricultural product or like domestic animals, same as money, went to Moscow, and that was the main goal of collectivization, because like they raised money, they raised agricultural goods in order to transfer them to Moscow. Second thing is the insurance of uninterrupted supply of rapidly growing cities in the course of industrialization, because Russia experienced industrialization not like European countries in 1900s. It experienced after like after the Great Revolution that happened in 1917. So the rapidly growing cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, that time was Leningrad, needed resources in order to grow, and collectivization solved that problem. Third is the free up workers from the countryside for the construction of 5-year plan. In USSR, there were expression of like a 5-year plan. So like economy was developing by 5 years. It was divided from like 1917s until 1990s. And the first 5-year plan was to collect money, resources from different republics in order to supply Russian Federation. So forces the increase of sale of grain for export with the help of collective farm production. In order to gain money from export, they had to sell something, and as they had no human resources in Russia, they raised money from republics, including Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan was the one of the victim of collectivization, like Ukraine, Tajikistan, Armenia, and many others. So this was the Stalinist four goals of collectivization that he raised. Turning point, like turning to Kazakh strategy, Kazakh collectivization. I'm from Kazakhstan, and we call the collectivization as the Kazakh strategy because like there were a lot of consequences of that policy. One is that Kazakh people by itself, by history, were nomadic people, and their style was like moving from one place to another because of the like domestic animals they're raised. They had to move from one place to another, and collectivization, as it means like collecting all the production animals in one place, like destroyed the ancient way of living. Second, because of the collecting, there were no like storage to save those products, and most of the products were damaged, and therefore there was a grain production decreased from like 9% to 3%, and there were like no place for animals to store, like um, to supply them, and there were like 35 million heads of cattle were died in like 3 years of collectivization, which definitely like struck very hard the population of Kazakhstan, especially like killing 1,750,000 people. And it is actually um, mostly like in today in Kazakhstan, this considered as a genocide because a Stalinist policy of collectivization created. Uh, this was not naturally created, but like it was politically created policy which killed more than like 40% of population. And because of that problems, there were like huge outflow of people. Most like people immigrated to China, Mongolia, Iran, Afghanistan, and like Western Europe during that era. And we lost like 20% of population because of that, and people were very angry about the policy and they want to fight back. But so because of that there were like armed demonstrations against the policy, like mostly like 400 revolts. But unfortunately the Stalin by was very harsh, and he by his order there were 100,000 people repressed, sending to labor camps, and more than like 5,000 or 6,000 people were died during that revolts. And this was considered the collectivization in Kazakhstan considered not as a good policy, but as a like a tragic policy where it had uh, migration, killing, decrease in production, animal heads of animal cattle like killed, and of course, like first, the main problem was the genocide because a lot of people died from hunger and poverty. And then Moscow like saw that problem, and they didn't react for like 3 years. Then some of the political analysts decided to solve the problem, and they proposed Stalin um, for like policy problem like resolvings, and they called it anti-collectivization policies. First is the return the land to the landlords. So it means that the farms were returned to the landlords so they can develop and like more make it more like they will increase the production of grain or increase the number of cattle, and so they would be responsible for their farm, for their property, and they will pay the Soviet Union like the by not tax but by the half or like the percentage of their goods. So second was creating farms, putting a person from Russia, um, and the person from Russia would uh, lead the farm. He will definitely gonna um, manage the farm and raise money production and give it to people, and they will the small percent of that would send to Moscow. So creating like a mini government inside of like a huge government. And this was like a really interesting policy resolution, but it unfortunately it failed. Another reason, another policy like anti-collectivization policy was the transfer of the land to the state and the transformation of peasant to wage workers. So this anti-collectivization policy was meant that the government would give the land as a to the like as a rent to people, and people will work there, receiving their salary, and what they produce, they're gonna give the huge bulk of it. They're gonna give it to the USSR. I mean, especially to Moscow, and in order to exclude the genocide or any other problems, considering with the Stalinist policy that happened in like 3 years. And the fourth is the very um, popular collectivization uh, policy analyst Bukharin. He proposed to stop the collectivization and created a free market. So he took the idea from Western countries and implemented in he wanted to implement in Russia. So it helped it would help the economy. So the government would receive money from taxes, even they will be implemented like 25-30% taxes, and people would be benefited, also would government would be benefit. In order to that policy work, that the Moscow needed to 200,000 rubles. In that time, that was like a huge amount of money in order to stop the collectivization and create a free market. But Moscow didn't have that money at that time. And explaining that anti Stalinist collectivization, I wanted to discuss what is Stalinism. All of those four policies were rejected, and the fourth policy was the best one. I mean, creating a free market was definitely excluded from the Stalinist list of policies, and all the policy analysts were executed, were killed, and some were sent to gulags, which is labor camps. And there were no person who proposed other policies to solve the problem with collectivization. And Stalinism, living in that era, it means like there is a one party, like Bolsheviks, and there's one nation, and there won't be any other ideas, any other proposals against what Bolshevik think. So what Stalin think, everyone thinks the same. And the second is was like what is Stalinism is the cruel policy methods. Stalin didn't care about people, about nations, like different national republics. He only cared about prosperity of USSR. He wanted to make some changes, and changes he wanted as fast as possible. And that's why genocide, repressions were needed to make the changes. And he thought that this was the only way. Third is no freedom of choice. Because of the socialist republic, I mean, USSR is a socialist country, and there were no freedom of choice. Everyone is the same, as I explained before, and everyone should act the same. And fourth is repressions. Stalin was very famous for his repressions. He killed a lot of people, head of the republics, his close friends, um, ministers, governors of the countries, and that he did it to in order to somehow exclude the opposition, and he was afraid of the opposition against him, and that's why he did a huge repression. and people who didn't want to participate in collectivization policy, they were like just repressed, killed, or sent to labor camps. And today, after not I mean after collectivization, there were a second world war happening in USSR. During that war, 25 million people were killed, and after the Second World War, USSR started needed to improve their economy because the situation was very bad, especially like damaged cities. Like the labor were like very low because like a lot of men were died during the war, and first of the policies that were created after World War II created by Nikita Khrushchev, who was the head of the USSR at that time, and he named the policy as the development of virgin land. That policy happened in Kazakhstan in 1954 and 1965. And after that, there were the eighth five-year plan, or the Golden Plan, that happened in 1966 and 1970s. Those two policies related to agriculture policies happening in Kazakhstan, which improved the whole situation in Kazakhstan very much, and increased like Kazakhstani GDP and population. And first, I would like to stop on the development of virgin land. Development of virgin land is the meaning of the development of virgin land means that deploying of untouched land in Kazakhstan for the harvest. So it just Kazakhstan is the huge country, and there were like untouched. There were so many untouchable land, and Khrushchev's opinion was to plow, like to um, make that land, like create that land to, like to money, transfer those land to production and to grain, uh and make it more money from that. And because of that, Soviet Union harvested like 150 million tons of grain in 7 years during that development of virgin land plan. And there were like appearance of 15 cities in Kazakhstan during 6 years. And there was a like rapid increase in economy and population because there were no cruel methods were employed, and there were like new technology coming from Moscow, and everything was to make Republic of Kazakhstan prosperous, because they knew that they failed during Stalinist collectivization. And problems with that, of course, there were problems with that, but problems were minimal. And problems is there were like people, a lot of people who violated the law. They were stealing money. There were acts of corruption happening in all over the place because like no one um, looked for. I mean, no one in detail looked for the production of money. So like production of grain, and there were like so many millions of rubles were stealing. And at the end, like the development of virgin land comparing to the Stalinist collectivization was different, like different in by mean that there were free rights. People were freely like chosen where they want to work, what property they want to get, where they want to they want to raise like cattle, or like doing production of grain, like, or bringing technologies. And Soviet government give them freedom, and there were no cruelty, like no repressions were used. There were like definitely at the Soviet Union there were like small number of repression, but most of it, the market was free, and people had a choice. And this was the, I think, the fundament of the development of the economy, like rapid increase in economy and population. The second is the eighth five-year plan, or the golden plan. Why it is golden? Because at that time the increase of economy was so huge that it was twice that the development of virgin land. So first of all, it is famous because there was increased immigration of people from Soviet republics, like Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia. people from all over the Soviet Republic came to Kazakhstan in order to develop, and they were like they created multinational societies helping each other, and they were like scientists, agricultural analytics came to Kazakhstan in order to develop the agricultural production. Second is the property rights. So they were like self-financing. People would produce agricultural products, sell them, and they will like self-finance it and like make it more production and make it more money. And that increase of production of agriculture was increased by 28% comparing to the last 5-year plan. And of course there were increase in labor productivity because there were like people from all over the Soviet republics came to Kazakhstan in order to um, help people like to develop agricultural production in Kazakhstan, those untouching development lands. And the problems were erosion because a lot of untouched lands were used for agriculture. There were erosion, wind, like heavy wind, mostly damaged most of the like 60%, I think, um, of the land, and people were like there were a lot of losses, but and like millions of cattle died because they couldn't travel from one place to another place, as it was like a nomadic tradition, traveling the cattle with like one place to another. uh, and but these problems were so minimal because like the overall production of agriculture were high, and the problems were solving. There were like now people died, and most problems were like more in micro level, where people can solve those problems. And comparing the golden plan with the Stalinist policy, there was like an influx of agricultural machinery because like development throughout time, there were like 35 years have passed since the Stalinist collectivization. There were like a huge development and technology, and also multinational workforce from different republics helped the agricultural production to increase. And at the end, I wanted to talk about independent Kazakhstan. Today, Kazakhstan is free from the Soviet rule, finally, and the the good thing is that because of those two plans, Kazakhstan has developed very much in agriculture sector because like a lot of development land was used for production of agriculture. We have a multinational country where like 160 nations are living in one country, and it was a good lesson that we've learned from Stalinist collectivization. Stalinist collectivization finally, like, I can admit that it failed because of genocide, because of immigration, loss of agricultural production, cattle's, and many other things. And USSR admitted that they failed only after 70 years after the collectivization, and that was the actually huge relief because they admitted that they failed with that policy. And today, collectivization that happened in 1930s considered one of the cruelest policies during Soviet Union and the biggest tragedy in Kazakh history. Thank you so much. I look forward for your feedback.